Hello and welcome to our Friday webinar. We are on with Lisa Bono. Hi, Lisa. And
Hi.
um, and today, oh my goodness, it's springtime, right? So we're going to be talking about hormones and a little bit of hormones in African greys, but also other birds, correct? Yeah.
Yes. Pretty much all species, but yeah.
But you're surrounded by 4 greys there, so I imagine you know your stuff there about greys and hormones, right?
A little bit. You can see my guys are looking a little rough right now, especially the boys, because they are in that mood. And so, yeah, I took some pictures and some videos, so
Okay.
we should have
Wait,
some
so
fun.
what's the rundown? Boys versus girls again?
Two
Who's
and
who?
two.
2 and 2. Okay. So in the background, who's who? Boy, girl, boy.
We have Sydney, boy. In the back, Sterling, boy. Sammy, girl, and Emma.
Okay. All right. There we go. And we got okay. They're all eagerly waiting to see what you're going to be saying about them. I can tell.
Yes, and if you, since I cannot see myself on the screen today at all, if you see Sterling starting to move around, let me know, because that might mean he's going to fly at me.
Okay.
And I might have to move the trees around to make it a little bit harder. I see he's got that look in his eye, like he's trying to figure out how to get over here.
Okay. Well, we'll be on Sterling watch, myself and our viewers. And so just real quick before we get started, just everyone who's logging in, welcome. Let us know where you're logging in from. Just love to know where everyone's coming in. And let's see, Lisa, I do think I made you a co-host so that you can present, because you have a wonderful PowerPoint for us. And oh yeah, look at that. And then and also just a reminder that if you have a question, we'll use that. We'll take those at the end, but use the Q&A button and not the chat feature. We're using the chat feature for the beginning when we see where everyone's joining us from. Got everyone from everywhere: New Jersey, Monterey, California, New York City,
South Africa,
Tennessee, South Africa, Canada. Yes, we got New Hampshire, Virginia. I love this. Okay. All right, everyone, just keep telling us where you're coming from. And someone near my neck of the woods here in California. All right. I guess we probably got some territory to cover, and I want to save time for questions because this is a very hot topic. So I'm gonna let you kickstart this, and welcome everybody.
hey, thanks for joining in today. If you hear anybody in the background talking, that's going to be Sterling, because I can hear him. Yeah, see, he just answered me. So that would be him. And if you can't hear the audio, let me know if he gets a little bit too loud. So we're going to start. Let's see. Bear with me. This is not supposed to be there. Okay, hold on. Now. Yeah, that's not working. Excuse me. I got to do it like this. None of my buttons are working. Yay. Okay, there we go. One more thing. Take that out of the way. All right. So welcome, everybody. I can't believe this is the 30th episode of The Gray Way. Thank you for all being here and for making this possible. I also want to thank everybody. Last month, I did the bereavement webinar, and it was a tough one. I can't thank you all enough for all the kind letters, emails, text, phone calls. It certainly helped me to go through some of the things that I was feeling, and I'm happy to hear that it also helped a lot of other people understand and deal with what they're dealing with. So this little heart here in the corner, that is, that's what that's for, to remind me. So I want to thank you all again for reaching out to me after that. So here we go. We're going to start out, and this is really going to cover, we're going to talk specifically a little bit about grays and then other species as well. A lot of times I see on the internet, you have these young babies and stuff, and people are like, oh, it's hormones, it's hormone. I'm talking 6 months, 9 months. And so I want everybody to know that not all behavior that's bad is hormone driven. It absolutely is not. Some, yes, all, no. So you have your Congos, and you guys have heard me talk a lot about the terrible twos. And that's usually the 18 to 24 month stage where I have a lot of clients reaching out to me and saying, I'm having issues now. I explain to them what's going on, give them a little bit of guidance of where we're going to go, and things start smoothing out about that 24-month period. Between 18 months and 24 months, your Congo is not going to be hormonal. If you're hearing grunts and making little jerky noises and stuff like that that you'll see videos of in here, that's usually either the bird learning its voice, or it's a little excited, whether it wants to play, whether it wants you, and it just doesn't know what to do, so it's making all these noises. But it's not about to try to mate with you, and it's not going to have an egg. The Timnehs, they will mature a little bit earlier. You know, I heard 6 months. My only Timneh that I had was a wild-caught Timneh that was an unknown age, late teens when I got him, so I can't tell you how he was as a baby, but they mature earlier, so you might see the behavior a little bit earlier. Know that Congos start to breed at approximately 4 to 5 years of age. So some people really don't want to see birds breeding until about 7, maybe. I'm getting my information from veterinarians and from breeders. So know that that's the age that they really start. If you start seeing huffing and puffing, 4 to 5 years with a Congo, that's when we're starting to see hormonal stuff come in. Hormonal-related behavior problems, reproductive behaviors are natural and will happen with pet parrots, even solitary ones, even the ones that have just one bird. Excess stimulation that we provide in captivity, such as diets, artificial lighting, close physical contact with owners, can lead to reproductive complications, such as we have chronic egg laying. You see that a lot with sun conures, lovebirds, and cockatiels. You have prolapses. You see that a lot with cockatoos and with grays. Any species can have this issue, but these are the ones that I have known of through my store and my clients coming in and just having a general, presence on the internet since it came out. Aggression, biting, territorial, nest, toy, or mate guarding. Usually the boys that I'm learning. And then, of course, African gray people, your cockatoo people, some Amazon people, and then your cockatiel people also see more of feather destructive behavior. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this as we go on, because we need to set up the environment so we don't run into these problems. So the urge to reproduce. Every living being has that urge, okay? We might grow out of it as we get older and decide, all right, well, maybe we don't want kids or, but these animals, that's what they do. They need to have babies to make sure that their species survives. The term hardwired, instinctive, or innate describes a behavior that is not learned, okay? Behaviors you already know to do for the very first time. Instinctive behaviors are important for promoting the survival of your species. So, reproducing, having babies is a hardwired instinct for the birds to survive. And just because these parrots are in our homes does not mean that instinctive behaviors are extinguished. We need to guide them through the stage and do it well for a good outcome. So a little bit more specific about grays. We have springtime in Africa, which means all baby animals. Springtime in Africa is obviously different from here. So we have springtime is September to November. And summer starts in December. I have friends that are in Africa. We have people on that are from Africa. I find it pretty funny that I'm sitting here in freezing weather and I'm watching everything bloom over there, and it's beautiful. And I'm sure they feel the same way when they're watching here. So the springtime coincides with the wet season between October and March. So what does that mean? We talk about both spring and the wet season. Daylight increases. The longer hours of sunlight are important to trigger the females, who then know that their babies will be hatching in warm weather, and the wet season signifies more food for the babies to keep them fed and happy. With increased daylight, our parrots naturally enter into this hormonal sequence. All right. So I can tell you that Emma and Sydney, well, first, Emma was born in January. Sydney was born in November. So usually people go looking for babies, and I didn't know that until I was looking after one of my birds died, and I was trying to find, something to help me heal. I didn't know. Everybody kept telling me it's not baby season. It's December, it's January. You're not going to find a baby. Well, some birds are still on that sequence. It's instinctual, and they might go back into it again this time of year here when our daylight becomes longer. And now it's spring here. So we're seeing it more here. So our grays start looking for mates in September. Usually grays start breeding in October. Okay, so if you see this in October, issues coming up, you know why. They lay eggs in November. Okay, Sydney's November 15th. Babies hatch in December. Emma is a little bit later because she is the only bird out of, I believe, 3 clutches that survived because the parents kept breaking the eggs. So they probably started, September, October, but they kept, breaking the eggs, and they had 3 clutches, and finally the breeder took the egg out and put Emma in an incubator. So she was never with her family. She was never with her mother and father. She was never in a nest. She was in an incubator. So that's probably why she's a little bit later in January. This can be a month off depending on when they find their mate. But domestics don't seem to quite follow these rules. Now, any of the little cartoons you see are going to be from Jean Pattison. I had her permission to use this in my webinars, and I don't think there's any cuter pictures out there that I could use to describe this. So once babies wean, they go into the nest for a second clutch. And like I said, grays are considered cyclic layers, and they don't usually go back to nest to replace stolen eggs, meaning if the breeders take the eggs out, they don't usually go back and breed right away. For whatever reason, Emma's, mother and father did, and that's why she's here. So how can we recognize hormonal behaviors? Again, with your 4 to 5-year-old gray, not your 1 to 2-year-old baby. What is observable? Okay, what can we physically see? When we talk about behavior, people will say, oh, my bird loves this. What are you seeing to think that your bird is loving this? What is observable? Okay, well, he likes to sit next to it. He likes to talk to it. We can see that. We can't see love. Okay, love is a label. Observable measure of animal behavior includes actions like movements, patterns, vocalizations, feeding habits, and social interactions, which can be quantified through methods like counting occurrences, measuring duration, or using technology to collect data. Now, when I do behavior consults, I send out a behavior form. And I ask everybody to fill it in as much as they can, because I need to collect data of what's going on. Now, if somebody reaches out to me and says, well, my bird is biting, okay, but let's figure it out. I need as much data as I can to understand what is causing this behavior. Now, this is something we can see. Common areas for feather destruction during breeding season. We have the little brood patch on the females. This is Miss Abby. You can see down here on her belly, she has a little brood patch. She had that every single day that she lived here, and she actually came here with it. Then we have the legs. This is actually Miss Emma. Now, this is a little extreme. This is a photo that was when she was actually sick. She had liver issues, and that's how she started out. Excuse me. Hey, you know it. I'm busy. Sorry. It's live. That's what happens. But the girls will usually go for the legs as well. So they think that what they're doing is taking out the feathers, they're lining the little nests with it. They want the babies to be warmer next to the skin versus feathers. And then you have the Elizabethan collar, what I call it. It's going to be all around the neck, okay? One thing I learned from having my physical retail location store is I had a lot of people with African grays. It was my highest concentration of clients, and they would all come in starting in October and say, my bird is starting to pluck. So I would ask them where, of course, go to the vet, find out what's going on. I want to know where they're plucking, and I want to know the results when you come back to the vet. All of them came back and said, well, the bird is healthy. And that's when I started thinking about the time of the season of when it was happening. And it coincides with what I've learned about springtime in Africa. So a lot of people would come in with this. And then as soon as that period was done, they would fully feather back in. I'll show you some pictures. This is Sterling, so keep him in mind. I should have had a before and after, but you can see him behind me, how he looks right now. So this is Rocket. And when the birds are in breeding mode or hormonal state, they start eating a lot more food. Hens will drink a lot more water. So people might say, hey, in the morning, I got this great big watery poop, more than normal. Could be that she's going into a hormonal state. They become more destructive with chewing. So that's why I had that perfect picture of Rocket up there killing his little tape adding machine there, paper. And that is typical. And the females actually love the label. They tend to chew wood more when they're going into this state. And males get a little protective or territorial, especially if they are allowed to go make their own nest. A lot of people have issues with their bird being down on the floor, and they walk into a room and all of a sudden the bird comes running out from underneath the china cabinet and attacks their feet. Well, the bird naturally, instinctually is protecting his little nest that he made. So you have to, and the females can be the same. I'm just saying, with my own flock, this is what I've noticed. Abigail, Emma, and Sammy have never really bit me just because they're being hormonal. Sydney and Sterling, in a snap, they're just like, I'm not getting what I want. You're here, I don't like you right now. And they make you bleed. So the females tend to kind of get broody and more loving. You have up here in the corner, you have Woody, and he's recently adopted by my cousin. So Woody is enjoying his best life, and I think Woody might be a female. Yeah, I think she is. But it was a good picture of them scratching the head, and you could just see in her eyes how she's interested. The down here in the little blanket, that's Abigail. She would try to get underneath the blanket, and you know, she's just looking and so cute there. And then the other two pictures are my husband and Emma. And yes, she lays on her back a lot because of her twisted neck. So I would always say they look alike, like daddy and baby. Just joking with my husband because I don't have human children. And then down in the corner, what we would do is, because Emma with her twisted neck, you got to think her neck is always hanging down almost by her legs. That's got to be bothersome all day long. So what we would do is we would take her in and we let her lay down, whether it was on the couch or whether it was in the bed at night. And I just let her lay down, put her head down and rest. And she really wouldn't do too much. She would just lay there. It's not like she would be cavity seeking or, you know, scratching or doing anything. She would just sit there, put her head down, and she's falling asleep. When she got kind of broody, what she would do is she would actually get right up there on my husband's neck. And you can see her little feathers are fluffed out because she's kind of telling me, hey, stay away. I'm happy here. So that's as she started to get a little older. So then we kind of calmed that down a little bit. Now I'll let her hang out on my chaise lounge if she wants to lay down, or she could sit on my chest if she wants to lay down and put her head down. Males, we have Sterling on the left, Sydney on the right. They do tend to get nippy, to say it politely. And that's the kind of look that you're getting from them. And then usually if you don't heed the warnings, you get nailed. And then right away, they look at you like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. But I'm not about to put my hand near either one of those birds until we distract them and calm them down. Emma is in this picture. She always has a wonderful appetite. These are the Harmony House foods that I donate to our webinars for the holidays. And this is kind of like the nightly creation I would make. So they're getting all the fruits and veggies at night. That in itself, coming out and having their dinner, as we call it, is a reward. So for good behavior, they come out and they do it. But they usually, the females, because they're producing, you know, they're getting ready for these babies, their appetite just increases and they're eating more. Just like when we're pregnant, we're eating for 2. They might be eating for 3 or 4 or 5. So I tried this morning to get a picture of Emma in her sleep cage doing her digging. This is another thing we can visually see for hormones. Now, this is Emma, and she got underneath the pillow. That might be my chaise lounge. Underneath the pillow, and she sits there and she scratches. So we call it the chicken scratch. Babies do it, male, female do it. They do it throughout their life, but it becomes more excessive. Okay. Sometimes I'll go in Emma's room in the morning and she ripped up all the paper that was lining where she could poop at night. She'll rip up all that paper and then she'll actually dump the tray on the floor. And then she's good. She's fine. But it's relentless. They're digging everywhere. And this, they do this in the wild to clean out their nests. They do it to make nests. So exactly why they do this is kind of still a mystery, but they all do it. Seeking more attention or affection. Now, I'm going to play this video a couple times because there's a couple things I want you to watch. Now, if you follow my little mouse thing here, you have on the left, you have Sterling. Okay. In the middle, you have Sam. Over here, you have Emma. This is stained glass. It's on the opposite side. It's out of the room. They cannot reach it. You have to be careful with that stuff. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to watch Sterling. Okay. This happens, I don't know, 10, 15 times a night. This is my chaise lounge. I'm sitting there. I'm watching TV. Sterling's not going to have any part of it. So watch his movements up there. See how he's exaggerating? He's turning around. There's not much audio with this, but you could see he's getting ready to take off. He went to pull a feather.
Hi, Sterling.
and he has to come sit by me. Now you see that little sexy dance we got going on? He's gonna sit there and he's gonna be hormonal. And that's something we can physically see. Now we're gonna watch Sam. Watch her behavior right here, okay? She's over exaggerating, she's preening, she's watching Sterling, okay? Got some hormones going on here. Now watch as soon as he takes flight. She stops.
I share mine.
So she's not trying to impress him or do anything. She just stops. Now she watches him. Okay. Sterling is, I think he's 43. Sammy might be 34. I have to go back, either 33, 34. Okay, now we're going to watch Emma. So we don't have to watch the whole thing, but Emma is doing absolutely nothing because she could care less of what's going on. But that is my flock, and these are the Sterling and Sam are the two that I am watching. Okay, another thing we can see, we can observe, you're going to have the wing drooping. A lot of people will post pictures online. I have permission to use these pictures. I put it on my Facebook page. Ask everybody to please send me the pictures without inducing any kind of behavior, any pictures you may already have. So this is Tucson, and this is perfect behavior. See those little wings going down, kind of making that little heart shape there. So somebody is in the mood. Now we have Sterling. This is after he flew to me, probably for the 10th time that night. Yes, I'm in my pajamas. Okay, you can see him clicking his beak. Okay, not sure if he doesn't know whether to grind it because he's content. Watch his wings shiver. Okay, his little sexy move, and watch it again. Okay, his little dance moves there. Now his wings. Okay, and if I don't stop that, if I don't distract him within a couple seconds, he's gonna start regurgitating, and I'm gonna have seed all over the place. The other night I was cleaning up, and obviously I was watching TV and not paying attention to him, because when I put him back in and when I fluffed up my blanket the next morning, there were seeds all over the place. So it didn't matter if I was paying attention to him or not. So this is a video that's on my gray page, and this is actually two males. But if you don't stop behavior, this is what your bird's doing. This is normal behavior. This is how the males are going to be, taking care of the females, and everybody's feeding babies on the nest. This is another reason you don't really want to offer any kind of like warm, mushy foods during this time, because, this is what a mate would do. Oops. So we have cavity seeking. Hold on a second. Let me grab him. Come here. Why are you screaming? That's not a good boy. Okay, you sit here. You stop. Okay, so I'm not sure if this is Igor, Cookie, or Fred, but obviously he's looking for a spot. That's an adorable picture. And I know two of the birds in this person's home are like Emma. So they do spend a lot more time on the ground and probably resting up than, say, a normal bird would do. But this is cavity seeking. They're looking for a place to get in, to chew, to make a nice little nest. Now, I have done this with my own, not during the season, but I have put big paper bags in there versus any kind of box or any kind of enclosure or any kind of hut, because as you can see, there's still light in here. So this is Nova.
What you doing, Nova?
So Nova seems interested. I mean, my guys would just completely destroy the bag. They'd stand on it, you know, they'd rip it apart. They wouldn't necessarily go in it all the time, but they had fun shredding it. And I mean, you can get a pack of these on Amazon. You can use them as foraging. You can use them like this, you know, stuff to shred and keep them busy and not necessarily being in a dark place for them to get into. So calling out and vocalizing more, as you just saw Sydney trying to get my attention. That's Sydney right there. And this is, or has been lately, at night. And if you can't hear it, let me know in the chat. Cheers. So this is constant. And oops, and that's not even full blast. This is kind of like the warning. I'm really going to start screaming now if you don't pay attention. Okay. So what do? We need to distract. If we know it's happening at a certain time of the day or night, try to, you preemptive, get in there, do something different, give him something to distract him so we don't get into this. So here, this is Morgan. And I have to tell you that she is not on a toy and she's not trying to mount anything, but the behavior is perfect to show you probably about 30 seconds before they would start mounting or rubbing their butt back and forth. So this is masturbation. So see her drooped wings, she's moving around, she's hunched down, okay? Female's gonna do that because that's when the male's gonna hop on top, all right? The males will also do it in my house. I have noticed it. I'm lucky that my girls have not really gone into much of a hormonal state through the years, besides Sammy trying to show off for the boys here. But this is, again, watch the behavior. See her wings down, they're shaking, she's hunched over, she's got that, she's like grinding her beak a little bit. Okay, that's gonna turn into rubbing and regurgitation right there. So you see that? We want to distract it. So I usually don't like boxes, but these are two pretty good options here. If you want your bird to chew on cardboard instead of closing it up and them getting inside, you see one of them has it, you know, on its end and it's taller and it's not really much of a nest cavity. It's more like a bump in the road. And the other one, I actually have a box like this through Superbird Toys that was featured in our holiday webinar. And Sammy chewed the top off of it and it looks kind of like that. That's not Sammy. But I do a lot of foraging in hers to keep her. So that's a great idea too. So, and again, they're not really getting in it, but they still have the opportunity to chew on it and destroy it. So we know we can manipulate their husbandry to minimize their hormones and reproductive drive. It's done by managing their environment, their nutrition, social interactions with family members, all the stuff we just talked about. So we need to keep those hormones in check. You should always be aware of the signals you're sending your parrot. Touching or petting them under the wings, over the back can cause stimulation. Therefore, touching should be limited to the head, neck, and I say feet. The reason I say feet is for grooming reasons. My guys really haven't, again, if my boys are hormonal and they need their little, you know, toenails done, I need to be able to touch their feet without them regurgitating and thinking that I'm hungry. When the bird's regurgitating, a lot of people use punishment. They'll put it down. They'll say, no, it's bad. It's instinct for the bird to do it. So what I'll do is I'll distract them. I'll put them down somewhere and I'll just say, thank you, but I'm not hungry. So I equate that to you know, your significant other trying to go give you a kiss, being sweet, thinking, you know, oh, let me make them happy, let me give them a kiss, and you turning your head and then yelling at the person. You just made the person feel bad. You know, the birds don't understand that. They're going to do it again, because it's instinct. So we just want to put them down. We want to distract them. So again, the head and neck. So we have, I don't know what happened to my arrow there. So we have safe touch spots. And this is a drawing from somebody named Lisa Walsh. And I have a lot of her drawings. I think they've been great. These are all little pinpoints. I haven't seen her around in about 20 years, but that is, that's one of her drawings. Okay, there we go. There's the rest of my arrow. Safe touch spots, the head. Okay. So here we have Dusty, obviously enjoying their little head scratch. And then you have Zippy doing the same thing. Owners are doing great. You know, the birds are loving it. That's where you want to stay to, especially during this time of the year. Stay away from high energy pellets and foods. Okay. This is, I talk a lot to my clients about the dietary needs of their birds. The dietary needs and the intake and what they're eating has a lot to do with how they are behaving. That's a big portion of my behavior form when I send it out. So we have the things you want to stay away from are corn and peas. Okay. They, and I learned from my dietitian, they are full of sugars. Carrots are too, but these are the ones they're telling us to stay away from during hormonal season. Beans, okay. You have your proteins. Soy would be in there. Soy is, that will induce hormones as well. You have your legumes and your mung beans. You have your pumpkin seeds. I'm not exactly sure why, but that was on the list. All fruits, high sugars, okay? More energy. Sydney's down here on my lap trying to get my attention. You have your potato. You see the little red asterisk, pay attention. You have your bread. You have your rice. And you have your pasta. If anybody in chat can tell me as I go along why we would not feed these, that's great. We shouldn't feed them at all. There's really no nutritional value in there. Sweet potatoes are great, but there's other reasons you shouldn't. And hopefully in the chat, everybody can pay attention. So the reasons why you shouldn't be feeding all that. So this is actually Griffin and Athena up at the Alex Foundation. And this was on Lafeber's, and it's a great, visual to show you that you should be, avoiding warm foods, concentrate more on fresh organic produce versus warm, mushy foods. Remember, the warm, mushy foods is what the mate is going to be feeding, okay? So try to chop up some more nutritional vegetables. You're going to stay away from your fruits this time of year. They don't need more sugar. So that's going to be a great little thing you can add into their diets. This is not a main diet. This is an addition to. That's me down at Parrot Festival a couple of years ago, learning how to chop up some veggies. So I really like this picture when I was looking through the internet to try to find out, what we can do. Okay, we want to redirect and stop behavior. Hold on a minute. Sydney's getting a little. Sit there. You got it. He was starting to regurgitate there. So we put him down. I redirected his behavior. So, okay, again, back to this picture. So as soon as this picture came on, you probably stopped looking at the words there and went and looked right at the picture, okay? I redirected your behavior, okay? That's what we need to do. So if you have somebody that's in a bad mood or they're having a temper tantrum, just remember when something like this would come at you when you were younger, right away you pay attention to that and you're thinking, what can I do to fix that, solve that? What's my move there? Redirecting, changing behavior, okay? So we redirect and stop the behavior when it starts. We don't continue to let the bird sit on your knee, just like Sydney was doing, or on your hand or on your arm, and it go into that mode where the wings are down, and it starts rubbing his butt and it's throwing up. It's not cute. It's not good for the bird, and we need to stop it. How can you do that? Rearrange some toys, maybe add some more toys during this hormonal time. That I simply had all those toys and I was waiting for a part of Sterling's cage to come in. So he was in there just looking at all his new toys. They were not going all in at the same time. It's just a great picture with all different toys in it. So you can see his little neck was filling in nicely there. So add more toys, give him something else to do. Now you can see top left corner, that's Sterling. That was probably the best in the 30-something years he's been in my family that he's ever looked. So you can see that the feathers do come back in. So that is Sterling. And it's surprising because you see the Christmas tree. So it was right at the time where he should be getting hormonal, and he was doing very good. You want to try to, if your bird's on your leg or your arm, like I was saying with Sydney, I just moved him. You don't want to say no, boy. You just want to put him somewhere else. I didn't have the Java tree where that tree and Sterling's actually sitting on my kitchen chair. That's where he went. Emma, when she would start, give her something else to do. St. Sterling is actually on the Boyne underneath his other picture as well. Again, give them something else to do, redirect behavior before it starts. And then another thing is, if they're on me, I'll put them on the tree, just like you saw me do. Put them on the tree, let them do bird things, instead of being on us. You could take a hands-off approach to interactions, take some time to read with them, or work on your training sessions. Now, the picture to the left is Emma, and that was my husband's granddaughter. That's Sarah. And Emma was terrified of Sarah. So this is how, because Emma didn't ever see any little high energy people running around the house before. So this is the first time Sarah visited, first time Emma ever saw something. And so this is how we got Emma to being around Sarah. She sat there, didn't touch her, just read through her, show her the papers. And then by the end of the time that she was doing that book, Emma would actually be down on the edge of the tray trying to rip the pages out of the book from her. So that worked. Now, Jonah is actually a friend and client of mine, and this is a super intelligent little bird. She was trying to redirect some behavior, not with hormones, because Jonah's a little too young for that, but he was trying to be a little testy with the other boy in the house, similar to what my Sydney likes to do. So they do a lot of training sessions with him to keep him occupied, to keep him busy. So watch this.
All right, can you get color black? Good boy, black.
So she's asking for black in case the video is not loud enough.
Get a black one. Good boy, good job. That's a black one. Good boy. Black, get a black one. Good boy.
So his behavior was directed at doing this versus trying to
Good boy.
the older male.
Good boy. Yes.
Right.
Good job, Jonah. That's a good boy. You got another black one. There you go.
And he just keeps going. I don't think any of mine could do that. So nothing is written in stone. There are many different directions that you can take to reach the same goals, and that's by Jean. That applies to pretty much everything in life, okay? Take it to the hormone spot. You might have to do a little bit more toys, a little less toys. My perfect way that it works in my house may work 75% in your house, and you have to adjust a little bit. But just make sure that you're not encouraging, because we need to discourage hormonal behavior. And why is that? I won't get into this because I'm pretty sure, I won't get into it too much because I'm pretty sure that this was already covered with Dr. Lamb. But you start out and you have hormonal problems, behavioral problems. Then it can lead to excessive or chronic egg laying. Then you can have egg binding, factor overdone, cystic ovarian disease. Come here. We can't do that. Mommy is doing something here. Okay, then you can have the egg yolk cellulitis, cloacal prolapse, yeah, reproductive failure. So this is Grumpy. I don't remember what Grumpy was offhand, but see all these little marks in here? These are all eggs that Grumpy couldn't pass. And these are all the eggs that was taken out, okay? So obviously, Grumpy was hormonal for quite a while, and a lot of times this doesn't turn out good. So these are reasons you want to distract and not encourage the behavior. For my vet friends that are watching, I know these are normal, pretty much normal size for testes in males, but I wanted to show people that they can enlarge and they can press on nerves inside of there, and this would happen with the males if they get extremely hormonal. So this is actually Sterling. This is when we were trying to figure out why he was limping. Then you have your prolapse. Both males and females can get this, and it's inner tissue which comes out because they're sitting there and they're pushing. It's exposed intestines, cloacal, uterus. It can be caused by physical or psychological problems in both male and female, and occur in any bird that strains frequently. Okay. This is not an easy surgery for the doctors. It's gotten better, but what happens is, they'll go in there and they'll kind of stitch it. And they've gone in and they've done it different ways. And they started out, they used to go in, and I think they used to go in and stitch both sides. I think now they go in and they stitch more on one. So it's a little bit harder, because what happens when the bird starts to strain and start going to the bathroom again, guess what? They're pushing and it comes back out. So if your bird has a prolapse and your vet fixes it, just know when it comes out again, it's not the vet's fault. This is difficult for them to treat. Now, actually, this is Sydney. Now, I noticed one night, I was on my chaise lounge. I came in, he was on his tree. I came out, and all of a sudden there's blood all over the base of his tree. And I look, and that's sticking out. So right away, I'm thinking, oh no, we got a prolapse. This is a problem. Luckily, it ended up not being a prolapse. My dopey boy here, for some reason, decided to chew on his butt. And that was just raw. It was a little bit that came out. But once we got the collar on him and we kept it lubricated, it went back in. And it was due to him chewing on his butt for some reason. But that's my Sydney. He has no excuses for anything he does. Why does this happen with some birds? First time egg laying, okay. Chronic egg laying, abnormality of the egg, okay. It could be misshapen, it could be broken. Disorders of the reproductive tract. And there's a lot more of that than we realize. Nutritionally unbalanced diet, improper laying environment, obesity, hereditary factors, just like us, and then age. So increased day length is a signal in the breeding season, as we talked about, in many species of birds. Artificial lighting in our homes can often complicate these cues in captivity. Providing more natural light cycles for the season is a form of environmental enrichment. For birds exhibiting excessive reproductive behaviors or with a history of reproductive complications, maintaining short days and longer nights may help with reduce reproductive stimulation. That's a may. Remember all the things we just went over with the, all this? It all comes into play. So one way to achieve this in a busy household to make sure that you don't have lights on and the music's not blaring, again, is to set up a separate sleep cage for your birds. And you guys all know I have a sleep room that I can keep very quiet. So in short, sun up to sundown is best during this season. Our days are longer. Okay, it's going to start getting rainy. That's Sam right there. Right away, she's going to start thinking, okay, longer days, more sunlight, baby time, getting the warm food at night, plenty of food. All this works in their little heads to produce babies. So how long does hormonal behavior last in parrots? The longer you foster and provide the environment for the behavior, the longer it will be a problem in your house. Usually the typical hormone period is going to be 2 to 3 months from start to finish. Okay, could go a little bit longer, depending, on many factors. And it could continuously go on if you foster that environment. So I have a couple announcements real quick, and then we'll get to questions. So keep this all in mind. If you guys have questions, don't be afraid to reach out. Just remember, we're going to deter the behavior for not only their health, our safety, but we want them to stay happy and healthy, not continuously in this mode. So I wanted to let you guys know that I will be up at the Lafeber table in Raleigh, North Carolina, September 3rd through the 6th. I hope you guys will stop by, grab a chair, sit down and chat with me, learn about the products, and I'm going to be speaking there as well on African Gray. So if you guys are in the area, this is the American Federation of Aviculture. It's a 3-day event, and they have events at night. They're going to have a bird park visit. It's going to be a fun time. So if you're in the area, stop by, say hello, let's have some fun. The other announcement I have is I am starting a new webinar series, and this is going to be on April 4th. And this is going to be Parrots, Past and Present, starting out in the 70s. I was 8 years old when my mom got me my first parakeet. Things have changed dramatically. I was very lucky that that little parakeet lived to be 18 years old. We were the same age. She was 18 when she passed, and so was I. That was my first loss, and it broke my heart. So that's me. That was on a float down in Hollywood, Florida, for their Christmas parade. I was asked to be one of their guests of honors on the float, and then in a little circle there, that's me with one of my parakeets. That's probably the one I was just talking about. That's probably Tweety, and I was probably about 14 there. So we're going to go through the decades. We're going to talk about cages and foods, and how veterinary medicine has changed, how we've learned more about behavior, everything that's evolved through the years. And again, it's going to be alternating with the Gray Way. A Gray Way is not going away for my gray people out there, but we're going to try to incorporate a little bit more and hit over to all species. So I hope you'll join us. And again, I want to thank you. And I'm going to stop sharing.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. I love that you showed us like the actual videos of the birds being broody and hormonal. So it's like, it really hammers it home, like a visual of that. So that was very beneficial.
Yes. And I thank people for allowing me to use them. So.
Okay. Are you ready for I've got a couple questions. I got a question about 2 hormonal budgies. One's a year old, and the girl is out of bounds with chewing behavior. So they aren't on full pellet diet yet. They're trying with supreme fruit pellets and greens. The question is that the girl goes through 1 to 2 mineral blocks a week, and Cuttlebone is getting a good workout as well. Do they keep the mineral blocks in the cage, or should they remove them?
Well, way back when, like my next webinar series, I used to offer them too. And I have not really sold them at the store, and I haven't used them. I would prefer Cuttlebone. I believe that would probably be more digestible. A lot of birds will go through that. My cockatiels used to go crazy through them. I used to buy them. And I had, well, of course, I had 17 cockatiels at one time, and half of them were females, but only really 1 or 2 went into breeding mode. But I would buy those Cuttlebones at a 5-pound box at a time. And they would just go through them like crazy. So you want to make sure that she can't get into any kind of nest cavity, and she will probably go in her food bowl. She'll go anywhere that's possible. So you want to try to keep it light and airy. And again, reduce the artificial lighting, and make sure she can't get anything. And if she gets in that food bowl and she starts going in there and trying to lay, what you could do is you could take a little toy that is safe to get dirty, maybe some kind of acrylic or plastic toy, and you could put that over by the food bowl. So it's just a little bit more difficult for her to get in it, not difficult to eat, just difficult for her to get in there and start making her little nest.
Okay. Okay. And then a question about, do you know if birds in the wild exhibit feather destructive behavior during breeding season, or is it something that we see mostly limited to birds in, captivity?
I would think that, well, I watch a lot of like eagle nests and stuff like that in the wild, and the females do have little brood patches. It's not as apparent as say Abby's was, but you could see that their feathers will be all ruffled up in certain spots. So while I've never found a camera in the wild for African grays, I would suspect that they're still doing the same thing. They're still pulling out some feathers to put in the nest to make it, a little bit warmer and to keep the baby closer to their body for the body heat. So,
all right. And then a question about, do you think sleep cages promote hormones because it's like giving them a nest? So like you got a sleep cage doctor.
it can. That's where you have to be careful. I think if my guy's got 2 hormonal, my sleep room is a dedicated sleep room. They just have their little 18 by 18 by 27 king's cages. And I do cover them at night. I always have. But if I had one that was being too hormonal, I would not cover them. I wouldn't make it enclosed. And I suspect that would help. So you got to kind of figure out the what's worse, the worst scenario. Do you keep them out in the household where they're not getting enough sleep, they're getting the artificial lighting, or do you put them in another room, possibly not cover them, where it's quiet, where they don't realize the days are getting longer and we're, giving them more light.
Okay. Okay. And then, so someone asked if you had a source list for the foods to restrict or to never serve. Is there a way that maybe we can post that somewhere? The list of
I
no
don't
food.
specifically have it, but I mean, you got your, I don't know if anybody answered in the chat, but you have your breads, your potatoes. That's all starch. There's no benefits to eating that. So, there's definitely a difference between a sweet potato and a regular potato. I've never fed my guys a regular potato, so there's nothing good in it. So we have to kind of think a lot about what we take in our body and what would be good for us. It would be the same for that. I'm sure if anybody has a list, if they want to send it to us, that would be fantastic.
Okay. Okay. I think we went through all the questions, so that was good. And we're at our time. And as you mentioned earlier, Lisa, so April's coming up, and you've got that fabulous new series for us. But I also wanted to point out that, I mean, that, my gosh, this will be 5 years, our 5-year anniversary of hosting webinars, which is crazy to think that we've been doing this for 5 years now. Time has super flown by so quickly. That's 5 years of doing these almost every Friday, which is amazing. It just blows my mind.
It's a wonderful resource for everybody out there to have education coming to their homes.
For sure. And I'm just I just want to thank everybody. If you've been on with us since day one, my gosh, like, raise your hand, because I'm curious how many people have been tuning in since, like, back in 2020. It's just, I'm seeing hands go. I mean, that's just amazing. You guys have been it's just that we've had this audience and this channel going for 5 years now. So we're gonna do some special celebrating in April, and to kickstart that, we're gonna be on with you, Lisa, to get that webinar started. So very exciting. Yeah, it's amazing. And want to thank it. We wouldn't be doing these if we didn't have people joining us. So we appreciate everyone, having an audience with us, and spending a good chunk of your Friday viewing these fabulous webinars. Lisa's always hits them out of the park with her presentations and her insights. So thank you. And also, just a quick reminder, next Friday, we'll be on with Dr. Tom Tully for Ask the Vet. So you get to ask free vet questions. I mean, this is amazing, right? 5 years of doing this. So, all right. And on that note, I'm going to wish everyone a fabulous weekend. All the best to you and your flock. Lisa, we'll see you very shortly in April. First Friday in April, we'll see you. And until next time, guys, everyone stay safe. Bye. Have a great weekend.